This is a new product overview video for the new Legacy 484 GS2, GS6, and GS64 steam locomotives. These locomotives are available in the following road names: Southern Pacific GS6 undecorated, Southern Pacific GS2 cab number 4412 in a black early paint scheme, a Southern Pacific Daylight GS2 cab number 4415, which we have here, the Southern Pacific GS6 black paint scheme cab number 4460, and finally Western Pacific GS64 cab number 482. Out of the box you will receive the manual for loading the memory module into the remote, the manual for the locomotive, the memory module which is specific to the road name and road number of the locomotive, the non-functioning front O-gauge coupler to allow multiple unit operation, 2 replacement traction tires, smoke unit funnel, smoke fluid pipette, and of course the locomotive. These locomotives feature a die-cast frame, pilot and trailing truck, die-cast boiler, die-cast tender shell, stamped metal tender frame, die-cast tender trucks, a functioning coil coupler on the rear of the tender, directional lighting, fan-driven smoke unit, Legacy Odyssey 2 speed control, Legacy control, and Legacy rail sounds. It also features a infrared tether between the locomotive and tender mounted to the top of the drawbar for a very low profile appearance. The function switches on our GS series locomotives are located underneath the cab on the locomotive frame. Underneath the engineer side of the locomotive we find the program run switch and the Odyssey on-off switch. The program run switch is used to assign the locomotive ID number. Place the switch in program to assign the ID number using either TMCC or Legacy, and then place the switch in run to operate the locomotive. For conventional operators, program is used as the conventional reverse unit lockout switch. In the program position, the locomotive will run in one direction at all times. In the run position, you will be able to cycle through all 3 directional states. The Odyssey on-off switch is used to control the Odyssey 2 speed control. When the switch is placed in the ODY position, the Odyssey 2 speed control is enabled, and the locomotive will maintain a constant speed regardless of track conditions or load. In the no ODY position, the Odyssey 2 speed control will be disabled. The locomotive will take longer to begin moving, and it's not uncommon to take 4 or 5 turns of the red thumb wheel on the Cab 1 or Legacy remote to get the locomotive moving when Odyssey is disabled. As a rule of thumb, we recommend that you operate the locomotive with the Odyssey speed control enabled. The other switch that we have is found under the fireman side of the locomotive, and that is the smoke on-off switch. In the no SMK position, the fan-driven smoke unit will be permanently disabled, regardless of whether you're operating in conventional or command. In the SMK position, the smoke unit will be enabled, thus allowing the smoke unit to function when the locomotive is underway. In the SMK position, you can use the Legacy remote or the Cab 1 handheld to turn the smoke unit on and off. The GS2, GS6, and GS64 tenders only have one switch on the tender itself, and that is the manual volume potentiometer. That volume pot is located in the 3rd water hatch from the front of the tender. Using this volume pot, you can adjust the overall volume of the sound system. For conventional operators, this is the switch that you'll use to set your maximum volume level. For TMCC and Legacy users, you can leave this set to full volume and adjust the volume manually using the touchpad or keys on your command control remotes. Now before we place our Daylight locomotive on the track, we want to make sure that we perform a little preventive maintenance. This is done by using some oil in a small bottle with a needle applicator. What we want to do is place a small drop of oil on the axle where it goes through the bearing in the locomotive frame. Just a small drop is all that's necessary on each axle. Repeat the process for the other side. You can then work that oil in by rotating the drivers with your finger. We also want to apply some oil to the axle of the pilot truck where the axle goes through the pilot frame. And again, repeat the process for both sides of the frame. A drop of oil on the axle for the collector on both sides of the collector, and work that in with your finger, and repeat the process for the remaining collectors on the locomotive. Now, because our steam locomotive has linkages that move along with the drivers, we want to be sure that we place a drop of oil between the side rod screw and the side rod on the two rearmost and the forwardmost drivers. We also want to place a drop of oil between the eccentric crank and the main rod, and then the main rod and the eccentric spacer. This will prevent any unwanted squealing from coming from these moving parts. We of course want to repeat the process for the other side of the locomotive as well. Using the same oil applicator, we want to make sure that we place a drop of oil on the tender wheel axles where they insert into the bronze bearings on the back side of the side frames. Just a small drop of oil is necessary, and we want to repeat the process for both sides of the truck. Also do this for the rear truck. Also want to place a small drop of oil on the axle for the collector, and then work that in with our finger, and repeat the process for the rear truck collector. Now, before we place our GS2 steam locomotive on the track, we want to make sure that we tell our legacy remote everything that we know about that locomotive. Because its cab number is 4415, using our numbering convention of the last two digits of the cab number, we're going to call it engine 15. So using our legacy remote, we're going to press engine 15. We're then going to locate our orange memory module and insert it on the top of our remote with the silver circle L facing up. Now we press the info key in the upper right hand corner. Now we press the button underneath load. It tells us there's a module inserted that is a Southern Pacific 11420 GS2 number 4415, and it asks us if we want to load the engine data. Press the button under yes. It tells us that the engine data is loaded and to remove the module. So we take the module out. Let's take just a moment and explain to you what this has done for our locomotive, more specifically for our remote. It's already assigned our name, so we press the scroll button in the upper left hand corner. You can see that it has set our type to steam. Pressing scroll again shows us control is set to legacy mode, and pressing scroll again shows us that sound is set to legacy rail sounds. To exit this menu screen, we simply press the info button in the upper right hand corner. Now each time that we address engine 15, the cab number will appear momentarily, and Southern Pacific will scroll across the top of our legacy remote. I'd like to take just a few seconds and show you what these icons are specifically for this locomotive. So as you address engine 15, the touchpad stays numeric. We have icons for power up, the interior cab light of the locomotive on. Pressing it once will turn the cab light off. Pressing it again will bring the cab light back on. We also have the speed limit sign as well. If we press the aux 1 key, our buttons are volume up, crew talk, steam let off, volume down. The black circle is shut down. If we turn the red thumb wheel and get the locomotive moving, that black circle changes to a black triangle. The triangle is for the emergency stop dialog. If we slow the locomotive down to a stop, that icon changes back to a circle, and that is engine shutdown. We have steam blowdown, tower comm, smoke off, smoke on, tender marker lights on, tender marker lights off, engine reset, Rule 17 lighting enabled, and Rule 17 lighting disabled. By pressing the speed bar, the icons on the touchpad change. We have our 6 preset railroad speeds. If you press and hold one of those railroad speeds, you'll get a dialogue. Once you release it, the locomotive will automatically attain that speed. Pressing it just quickly will prevent the dialogue, and the locomotive will immediately attain that speed. We still have tower calm, smoke off, smoke on, the bar graph for our labor chuff intensity. The number 1 is roll speed. That's the slowest speed step the locomotive will attain. We have effects up to increase our laboring chuff, and we have effects down to decrease the laboring chuff. Simply press aux 1 to get back to the original menu. Now, before we get the daylight locomotive running, there's 2 things that we need to accomplish. First is we need to assign the locomotive ID number to the engine, and we also need to prime the smoke unit with fluid. So to assign the locomotive ID number, we want to remove the engine from the track and place the program run switch in the program position. Place the locomotive back on the rails. We can then apply power, and using our legacy remote, we press engine 1-5. Since we've already told the remote that engine 15 is going to be the daylight, and we've loaded the engine memory module, we simply need to complete the process by assigning the ID number to the locomotive. So we press engine 1-5, and we press the set button. The whistle confirms that it's taken the command, and we go ahead and shut off track power. Take the engine off the track one more time, place the switch back in the run position, making sure that the Odyssey on-off switch is in the ODY position and that the smoke on-off switch is in the SMK position. We can then place the locomotive back on the rails. And the one last thing that we need to do is we need to prime the smoke unit. So using the pipette that came with the locomotive and 6-37841, the Lionel Premium Smoke Fluid, we want to fill our pipette so that we have fluid from the tip to the first line about 3/4 of the way in between there. Insert that pipette all the way down the stack and add our fluid. Couple puffs of air to make sure we don't have a meniscus in our stack, and we're ready to go. So go ahead and apply track power, and you'll notice that when track power is applied, the only thing that's illuminated are the number boards on the front of the locomotive boiler. There's no headlights, there's no class lamps, no tender marker lamps, or cab light are illuminated, and this is normal. Those lamps will not come on until you address the locomotive. So we press engine 1-5. I'm going to press the power button and hold it, the icon that's in the lower left-hand corner of the touchpad, and we'll get this dialogue.
This is the dispatcher. Do you copy? Copy that. Read your fine. Over. Very good. Start up and hold. Roger that. Holding for your signal. Out.
Go ahead and turn the smoke unit on. And I'm turning it on to the high setting. And it's not abnormal for the smoke unit to take a few seconds before it starts generating smoke. Also, it's important to note that when the locomotive is at idle, the amount of smoke coming out of the stack will be less than what it is when the engine's underway. I'll go ahead and play the whistle for you, and I think you'll all agree that this is the best part of this daylight locomotive. I'm just kidding, that's the high-speed horn. By pressing the aux 1 key or the straight arrow button, we can toggle back to the whistle. This is the best part of the locomotive. Whew, that sounds good. Here's the bell. Crew talk.
I'm ready to roll, dispatcher. dispatcher. Take the green. Over. That's great. Thank you, sir. Green boards. Out.
Okay, these locomotives are also equipped with sequence control. And what sequence control is a series of sounds that play automatically based upon throttle actions on the remote. So to enter in sequence control, you simply press and hold the aux1 or the straight arrow key for 3 seconds, and the locomotive will tell you that it's entered sequence control mode by sounding 2 bells and a short whistle, and it works like this. That tells us that we're in sequence control mode. So now I'm going to go ahead and go to speed step 1, and the train doesn't actually begin moving.
Dispatcher, I see that signal. We're good to go. Over. Acknowledged. Out.
And when we go to speed step 2, the locomotive will begin moving, the bell will come on automatically and stay on until we crest speed step 23, and then based upon throttle actions or throttle commands of the locomotive, the engine will make different sounds. Could be a grade crossing whistle sequence, could be tower comm, crew talk, etc. But I'm going to go ahead and just turn the throttle and let it run for a little bit and allow it to sing for you.
Dispatcher, we are underway. Over. Roger that. Have a good run. Out.
Now, to exit sequence control mode, we press aux1 or the straight arrow key, and then the reset key on the touchpad. Whistle tells us that we've exited sequence control mode. Now we can add water to our water tank by pressing and holding the round wheel icon in the number 3 position on the touchpad, and the longer we hold it, the longer it will add water. When we let off that icon, we'll get this dialog.
My water's full. Copy that. Out.
And finally, the shutdown sounds.
Signing off, dispatcher. See you tomorrow. Out.
And that's the new Southern Pacific GS2, GS6, and Western Pacific GS4 product overview video.